Julian, if you're coming in here as a new head coach or a new member of the front office and you watch this game for Carolina against the Saints, where they just came up with a handful of ways to lose a football game, what is the first thing you start with in this overhaul that's clearly needed in Carolina?
Wow, that's a tough question to answer. Well, you're not going to start the quarterback, who obviously did not play well. He's going to be here again next year. I guess with the receiving talent, possibly, because you need to find a way to help the quarterback. And we looked at it today when Bryce wasn't overthrowing his receivers weren't coming up with the catches. And that was mainly DJ Chark. So I would look at this team, and the first thing I suppose I'd fix is getting some weapons aside from Adam Thielen, who's kind of disappeared over the last couple of weeks, to help out Bryce Young. That's the first thing I'd be looking to do if I'm the new head coach.
All right, yeah, because you think you're getting your two starting guards back healthy next year at the same time, Brady Christensen and Austin Corbett. We'll talk about the tackles in a minute. But let's stick with Bryce Young in the pass game. Completed just 36% of his throws. That is the lowest this year for a starting quarterback in the NFL. But what percentage of that is on him, I'll pose to you?
Again, it's a difficult question to answer. It's not all, I don't know, percentage. I would say maybe 33%. Let's do 25% on Bryce, 25% on the coaching staff, 25% on the receivers, and then the other 25% on the offensive line. And Bryce has not played well. We all understand that. He has not looked as ready-made as we were led to believe heading into this season. And some of the reporting that came out from Joe Person and Diana Rossini this week from The Athletic was really interesting. The fact that the Panthers really wanted to focus on him learning the offense and being able to operate the offense more so than his fundamentals. I don't understand why not work on fundamentals first, then really focus on him being ready to go play. It seemed like they just want to get him out there as soon as possible, opposed to getting him out there when he was ready. And having watched Bryce Young this season, I know the questions happened every single week of whether it's time to sit Bryce. He really hasn't looked like someone who is ready to take on the starting job of an NFL team, especially here in Carolina this season, considering all of the factors outside of him. So that's just curious the way things have worked out. So I put 25% of the offensive failures on Bryce Young.
All right, let's keep up front here. Ickey Ekwonu continues to struggle. He got beat badly a couple times again on Sunday. Are you worried about him going forward at tackle, entering his third season? I mean, are you one of the people that thinks that they need to bump him inside at this point?
I'm not one of those people. I'm willing to go with Ickey again next year. They drafted him to be the starting left tackle. Now, it'll be interesting to see what the new coaching staff looks like, who the new offensive line coach is, assuming that James Campen's not retained by the incoming staff. And you also have to wonder who's going to be the general manager, because if Scott Fitter is still here, then possibly, because Ickey Ekwonu was his draft pick, they want to keep Ickey there at left tackle. I can only imagine how frustrating it is to all the Panther fans out there that have watched for almost was 10 years of revolving doors there at left tackle, both figuratively and literally, after Jordan Gross retired, and then thinking last year after the first two games against Cleveland and the Giants that, okay, the Panthers have finally found their foundational left tackle there in Ickey Ekwonu, and this year just has not been great. Early on in the season, I was looking at the larger sample size of last year, pointing to that as a reason to stick with Ickey here. But after this year, it's going to be a question that the Panthers need to address. But then what do you do with Brady Christensen, who's under contract next year? It's not as simple. I don't think it's as simple as, just move Ickey into guard when you have your two starting guards next year under contract, assuming that you bring back Austin Corbett and that Brady Christensen again is here at left guard. So I'm willing to give him an opportunity again next year at left tackle. Maybe he needs to be in a different offensive scheme. I don't know. Maybe a different offensive line coach helps him. I just don't think that's something that the Panthers should necessarily quit right now. And I don't think it's just as simple as movement guard, because then you got to go find another left tackle. And all five of the presumed stars heading into the season are all under contract next year. So it could be interesting to see what they do. All
right, Julian, the Panthers actually accomplished something I think is worth noting. They ran for 200 yards and still lost by over 20 points. That's hard to do. Should this coaching staff have leaned more into the run, though, in situational football?
Yeah, you would think so. We had the conversation last week. Thomas Brown on that 4th and 1 call back-to-back against Tampa Bay. Chuba Hubbard had over 100 yards rushing. First time that's happened for a Panthers running back all season long. And he decides to throw the ball on 3rd down and on 4th down. Now, today, similar issues where you look at the 4th and 2 in the first half to throw the ball down the field. DJ Chark's going to come up with that. So we can question the play call, which I certainly question. Why not run the football when that's what you had success doing today? But the receivers got to catch the football. Also, you look at Raheem Blackshear when it's a 4th down and 1 in the second half in the fourth quarter. He slips coming out of his break. If he doesn't slip, it's a first down. So you can question the play call, which again, I'm absolutely going to do, but the players have to execute. So while you want to blame Thomas Brown, and I absolutely believe like Thomas Brown has not done a great job when it comes to the play calls in those those situations in short yardage, the players also have to be able to execute, but also put the players in a position where they should succeed, and that would be likely running the football, which they did effectively today.
Okay, so on defense, Julian, Derrick Brown, he's had a monster year. He looks the part of, whatever it was, the 7th or 8th overall pick when they brought him in here in 2020. He's gotten so much better. Second career interception, both against the Saints. He ragdolled Alvin Kamara at one point. I know Panthers fans love to see that. He's kind of been thrown out there, not by anybody significant reporting, as maybe a guy that the Panthers could trade to bring in somebody to help Bryce Young. But are you comfortable with that, given the season he's had and the position he plays and how hard it is to find somebody that can penetrate an offensive line like he has?
Yeah, we're hyper-focused nowadays in football with the quarterback. And I understand that that's the most important position in the game. It's the most important position, we say, in American sports. And, the NFL, you look at it, it's a quarterback-driven league. I totally understand that helping the quarterback, that matters. But you're not going to win any games if you can't win at the line of scrimmage. Football is a line of scrimmage game. We have to stop overlooking how important the line of scrimmage is and stop always focusing on the quarterback. The quarterback matters, but as we've seen with Bryce Young this year, if the offensive line cannot protect him, he cannot have success. Same thing happened with Peyton Manning, with Tom Brady, and all the greats. If they don't have someone in front of them to block for them, they will not have success. On the defensive side of the ball, it's also important up front to have guys that can go after the quarterback, that can stop the run, and that's something that Derrick Brown can do. So I don't really see how it helps the Panthers overall as a franchise and as a team if they get rid of who's probably their best player in Derrick Brown. Yes, he's a valuable piece, but are you going to be able to find another Derrick Brown easily? They haven't found a DJ Moore yet. They haven't found a Christian McCaffrey. I'm not with trading away all of the talented players in hopes that, maybe that will help Bryce Young. Because there's also a possibility that maybe Bryce Young isn't the guy. I'm not saying that, but it's still a possibility. We still have to wait and find out. But no, the Panthers are not going to get better by getting rid of a defensive tackle in a very important part of the game. That is the line of scrimmage. So I'm not with that. I think if anything, they should be looking to pay him, and probably pay him before Brian Burns, considering how well he's played this season and the valuable position that he plays at defensive tackle.
Julian, a lot of people are saying today is rock bottom. I submit that there are 4 weeks to go, and we should know by now that it can get worse in Carolina. This is big picture. The culture here just seems to have been sapped over the last handful of years, and it's just coming to a culmination now. And 1-17, if this rides out, would be, winning percentage-wise, the worst season in Panthers history. How are folks feeling about the culture of the Carolina Panthers right now? Is that the worst it's ever been?
Well, fortunately, they won't be playing 18 games, so 1-16 is a lot better than 1-17. Thank God.
Yeah, okay.
But
I don't want to do this another week, so I'm glad you brought me back down.
Well, they do play an 18th game. I would expect them to lose that game as well. It's tough when you look at the culture, and the culture within the building is a huge problem when you read the reporting from Joe Person today and Orsini that I mentioned earlier. The fact that there's infighting among the offensive coaching staff, that guys aren't on the same page. How can you expect them to go out there and win on Sunday when they're in such disagreement throughout the week? And as we've seen, that has materialized on the field as this has not been a good football team. They've had the same mistakes they had in week 1, now here in week 14. But as far as with the fan base, they got to be given some sort of hope. And hearing from NFL reporters like Adam Schefter that this could be a bloodbath as far as coaching staff firings, we could look at 8-9 jobs available, and you have to think the Panthers are probably the bottom of the barrel because of the issues here with the culture, with David Tepper, and his involvement. There's also probably be coaches who don't want to have Bryce Young as their quarterback. So it's tough. The culture changes when the team starts winning, but the team's got to do a lot to change things. And David Tepper's going to need to look in the mirror for that to be a reality for Panther fans here in Charlotte and all across the states and the world.
15 minutes with Julian Council, much better than 4 hours with Jonathan Vilma. Julian, 4 weeks to go.
Oh,
thanks for hanging in.
Of course.